welcome to Cambridge Language Institute. This is Ansar Ahmad. In today's video, I am going to talk about how to balance a chemical reaction. In this video, I am going to discuss that how to balance a chemical reaction. In this video, I am going to discuss 8 chemical reactions. But first of all, I will begin from that simple reaction, and later on I will move toward that complex chemical reactions. So now let's talk about that. What are the steps? What are the steps to balance a chemical reactions? So the first step is that we have to balance first of all metals. First of all metals. That is called here metals. Metal. Then the second is that we have to balance non-metals. That is called here non-metal. And step number third is that if you balance metal first, then non-metals, then balance that oxygen. Balance oxygen. That is called here oxygen. And then step number 4 is that is called hydrogen. That is called here hydrogen. These 4 steps will help you to balance any kind of chemical reactions. The first step is that we have to balance first of all metals, then non-metal, and the third one is called oxygen, and the fourth one is called hydrogen. Now let's talk about that through reactions. First of all, I will choose simple reaction, then later on I will go to the complex reaction. So let's talk about reaction number 1. At this video I am going to discuss 8 chemical reaction. From simplest to complex I will move. The first reaction is that is called reaction number 1. Carbon monoxide react with O2. That is called O2. And what we have? We got that is called carbon dioxide. Now, how to balance these chemical reactions? So first of all, we have to choose metal. We have to choose metal first. Now, which one is metal here? And then later on talk about that non-metals. So there is no metals. So we have to begin from the non-metal. So non-metal is what? Carbon is non-metal. Here carbon is, number of carbon is 1. Here number of carbon is, that is basically called 1. So is it balanced? Then what is the third step? The third step is that choose oxygens. So now number of oxygen here 1 or 2. So number of oxygen is 3. And here number of oxygen is 2. That is basically called here 2. So 3, 2, oxygen is imbalanced. So what we will do here? Here we have to add if we add here 2, so the number of carbon is also increased and the number of oxygen is also increased. Now again, if you add any coefficient, so then you have to go back to your own rules. The first, let's check again carbon. Number of carbon is 1. Number of carbon, number is change. That's about 2. Now let's talk about oxygen. So 1 or 2, 3. And here we have 2. 2s are 4. Number of oxygen is, that is called the 4. Now again we have that oxygen is imbalanced. And also that number of carbon is also imbalanced. So now what we will do? We can simply add here 2 here. Then now again go back to the reactions. So number of carbon is, that is basically now balanced 2. Number of carbon and reactant side is 2. And here that is number of carbon is 2. Now let's talk about that oxygen. So 2 ones are 2 oxygen and 2, 4. So number of oxygen is 4. And if we talk about here, so we can say that 2 2s are 4. So number of oxygen is here, that is about balance. So this is the first reaction. Here we balance first of all non-metals and then we balance oxygen. So it's a simple reactions. Let's talk about that next reactions. Reaction number 2 is that is called reaction number 2. Magnesium nitrate. What we have? We have magnesium nitrate. When it react with water, H2O, so it form magnesium oxide, and that is called OH oxide, plus NH3, NH3 means ammonia. Look at this reaction. This reaction is magnesium nitrate plus H2O react, it form magnesium hydroxide plus NH3 mean ammonia. Now what is the formula? Formula tells us about 4 steps. First of all metals, then non-metals, then oxygen, and then hydrogen. So now which one is metal here? So magnesium is metal here. First of all I have to balance metals, then non-metals, and then oxygen at the end, that is about hydrogen. Now let's talk about here. Number of magnesium is here, that is basically called 3. Number of magnesium is 3, and here number of magnesium is 1. Now first of all we have to measure that metals. So here number of 3 and here number of magnesium is 1. So I have to add here now 3. What can I add simply? I can add 3. So number of magnesium is balanced now. Number of that is called 3 here. Now what is the second rule? The second rule is that go for non-metal. What is here non-metal here? Non-metal is nitrogen. Now let's talk about number of nitrogen on left side, that is basically 2. And here number of nitrogen is basically 1. I can just write here, that is basically called 1. Number of nitrogen is 1. What to do? Simple method is here. Here is 1, so I can write 2 here. I can write that is basically called 2. So now again, if you add any coefficients, then go for the whole reaction back. Check magnesium, that is basically 3, and the right side magnesium is also 3. Now let's talk about nitrogen. So N2, we have number of N2 is 2, and in case of here what we have, that is called N2. So number of nitrogen is also 2. Now the third one is that we have to go for the oxygen, and then we have to go for that hydrogen as well. Now let's talk about number of oxygen. And the left side we have 1, so we can write 1. And here if we talk about that, so 3 means here, so OH is there. What is there? Yani H is there. So we can say that 3 2s are 6. What we can call a number of oxygen is 6. And here we have only 1, and here we have, that is basically called 6. So I can simply, we can add here number of, that is called to balance. So we can just write here that number of oxygen will be. Now let's again go back to that magnesium, number of magnesium is 3 and left side, and right also that number of nitrogen N2, and also here that is called 2N, so it is cleared, that is about 2. Now let's talk about oxygen. Now 6, that is called here 6 1s are, so we get that is called number of oxygen is 6, and the left side. Now let's talk about here, that if we say that 3 2s are 6, number of oxygen is 6. Now let's talk about that, the last one is called hydrogen. Number of hydrogen in the left side, 6 2s are 12. And now let's talk about in case of here. In case of here we say that 3 2s are, because this hydrogen means 2, so we can multiply, this means multiply, so 3 2s are 6. So we have that hydrogen is 6 plus, now 2 3s are 6. So if we look at here, reaction number second, so we balance all. And the first reaction, first I balance, that is about non-countable me, sorry, we can say non-metal, that was about carbon. So number of carbon here we got 2, and also the right side we have got 2, oxygen 4 and oxygen 4. The second reactions, we have metals. So first I balance, that is about metals, number of magnesium is 3, and here also that number of magnesium is 3. Then after that I balance, that is about nitrogen, number of nitrogen is 2, here also 2, and number of oxygen here, that is called 6, and next one also that 6. Now if we talk about that hydrogen, so number of hydrogen is 12, and also that here we have that 6 plus 6, So that is called that is basically called 12. So all first I balance metals, then non-metals, then oxygen, and then hydrogen. Now let's talk about that reaction number 3. Reaction number 3 is copper oxide plus NH3. NH3 react. Copper oxide react with the NH3. So it will form copper plus N2 plus H2O plus H2O. Now how to balance these reactions? So the rules for making balanced reactions, first of all we need to balance metals, then non-metals, then oxygen, and then at the end we have that is called hydrogen. Now let's talk about these reactions. Copper is metal. So first of all let's balance copper. The number of copper is, that is basically called 1, and here number of copper is 1, so it is automatically balanced. It is already balanced. Now let's talk about that non-metal. Non-metal we have nitrogen. Number of nitrogen is 1 in left side, and here number of nitrogen is, we can simply call that is called 2. So now number of nitrogen is 1 in the left side, and the right side number of nitrogen is 2. So I have to add a coefficient. Here I will add 2. So number of nitrogen will be balanced, and also it is already balanced. Now again go for the addition. Number of copper is balanced. Now N2 and nitrogen is balanced. Now let's talk about that metal is balanced, non-metal is balanced. Now let's talk about that oxygen. Now the number of oxygen is, if we talk about number of oxygen here is 1, and if we talk about here number of oxygen is how many oxygen we have, that is called 1. Now let's talk about that the last one is, that is called hydrogen. Now number of hydrogen is 2 3s are 6, so I can write here 6, and here only we have 2. How many hydrogen we have? Only 2. Now so what I will do here, so I have to add here, that is basically called 3. What I will add here? Basically 3. Now again go back to the reactions. Copper is already balanced, nitrogen is balanced. Number of oxygen is disturbed, because here number of oxygen is 1, and here number of oxygen become 3. How many we have? We have got 3. Number of oxygen we have got that is basically 3. Now if we talk about here again to balance, so we need to add here 3 more here. What I have to write here? 3 here. And now again the problem is created. Here that number of copper is what? That is changed to 3, and also number of copper is also here again we need, so again we have to write 3 here. So number of copper will be 3. Now let's talk about nitrogen. How many nitrogen we have? So we have 2, that is here, and here number of hydrogen is 2, balance. Now again let's talk about that oxygen. So 3 1s are 3, oxygen is balanced. Now let's talk about 3 1s are 3, so oxygen is balanced. Now if we talk about that hydrogen, so let's see, 2 3s are 6, and now here 2 3s are 6, so we can cover here, that is basically called here. So this was about the reaction number 4. First of all, what I balance? Copper, which is metal. Number of copper is 3, and also here number of copper is 3. And if we talk about here nitrogen, number of nitrogen is 2, and also next we have number of nitrogen is 2. Then I balance number of oxygen, that is basically 3, and also here number of oxygen basically 3, and hydrogen number is 6, and also hydrogen number is 6. Now let's talk about that reaction number 4. Reaction number 4 is aluminium carbide react with the H2O. It formed CH4 CH4 plus a aluminium hydroxide. Now this is another reactions. I told you that I will go stepwise to complicated reactions. First reaction was simple, then more simple, and go on further it. Now let's talk about in this reaction. First of all, I have to balance metals, then non-metal, then oxygen, then hydrogen. Now number of, first of all, metal is aluminium. Number of aluminium is 4, and here number of aluminium is, that is called 1. Number of aluminium is 1. So now how to balance here? We have to write here 4 here. What I have to write? 4. So now this side is, we got it here 4. Is it clear? Now then we have non-metals. Number of carbon is 3, and here number of carbon is, that is here 1. Number of carbon is 1. Carbon is non-metal here. Now here what I will do, number of carbon is 3, so here I have to add 3 here. I will just simply add 3 here. So number of carbon will also balance here. Number of, again check it, aluminium 4, and here aluminium is also 4. Number of carbon 3, and also here number of carbon is, that is basically called 3. Now let's talk about oxygen. So now number of oxygen here is 1. Number of oxygen is 1. And here if we talk about number of oxygen is 4 3s are, that is called 4 3 is a, so 3 4s are basically called, number of oxygen is 12. What I will do, so I have to add here, that is called 12. I have to add here 12. Now so number of oxygen is here, it's become 12. Again go back to the reaction. Number of aluminium is 4. It's okay. Number of aluminium is 4. Number of carbon is 3. Number of oxygen is 12. Now let's balance hydrogens. So number of hydrogen is 12 2s are, so number of hydrogen is 24, and here 3 4 3s are 12. Number of hydrogen is 12 plus 4 3s are, or 3 4s are, that is basically called 12. So we got number of hydrogen is 24, and here we also got number of hydrogen is 24. So in the first I balanced, that is about metals, then carbon, which is called non-metals, and after that I balance oxygen, and the next one is called hydrogen. So this was about fourth reaction. Now let's talk about reaction number 5. Manganese, that is called manganese oxide react HCl. It form manganese chloride, that is called manganese chloride plus H2O plus Cl2 chlorine. Now let's balance this chemical reactions. Before this I balanced 4 chemical reactions, and the same rules. First of all we have to balance metals, then non-metals, then oxygen, and then hydrogen. So now let's talk about which one is metal here. Manganese is metal. Number of manganese is 1. Here number of manganese is 1. Now let's talk about that non-metal. Non-metal is chlorine. Number of chlorine is basically 1. And here number of chlorine is 4. 2 or 2. 4. That is called 4. Now let's balance oxygen, because metal is balanced, non-metal is balanced. Now let's talk about oxygen. Number of oxygen is, that is 2, and here number of oxygen is 1, that is here 1. Clear? Now we have to add here coefficients, yani 2 here, that is called plus, and I have to add here 2. So the number of oxygen will be balanced here. I can just write here 2. Now again let's revise that reaction. Manganese 1 balance, chlorine that is called 1. Here we have 1 and here we have 4. So first of all we have to balance that chlorine. So we can write here 4. We can write here 4 here. So now again let's check that. Manganese 1, manganese is 1. Then chlorine, number of chlorine is 4. I can just write here 4. And here number of chlorine is 4. It's okay. Now number of oxygen is, that is 2. And here number of oxygen is that is about 1. So now we can say 2. That's balanced. Now let's talk about that hydrogen. Hydrogen, number of hydrogen here, that is basically called 4. 4 ones are 4. And here number of hydrogens. So 2 twos are 4. Number of hydrogen is 4. So here the same formula I use. First I balance metal, then non-metals, and then also that oxygen, and then hydrogen. So this was reaction number 5. Now in reaction number 6 I will discuss a little bit more difficult reactions. Reaction number 6 is, it's a little bit more complicated, but we have to you have to listen very carefully. That is called C2H6 ethane. It's ethane. Ethane react with the O2. That is called O2. It forms carbon dioxide plus H2O plus H2O. This reaction is a bit difficult, but we have to follow the same rule. And the rule number 1 is that first balance metals, then non-metals, then oxygen, and the third one is hydrogens. The fourth one is, sorry, hydrogen. So now let's talk about that metal. So there is no metal. So let's talk about from that carbon. Number of carbon is 2. Here number of carbon is 1. So what to do? Just to write here 2 and the right side coefficient. So number of carbon is now balanced. Non-metal is balanced. Now let's talk about that oxygen. Number of oxygen and the left side is, that is 2. And here if we talk about that number of oxygen is what? That is called 2 twos are 4, 1, 5. Number of oxygen is 5. Number of oxygen is 5. Now look at here. Number of carbon is balanced. Oxygen is 2 and 5. What to do with such a reactions? So we can just add here. If we add here 3 here, 2 to 4, then 3, 6, then 4. That's considered wrong. So we have to add here. That is called 5. We have to add 5. That is called 2. 5, 2. So the reaction is balanced, but it doesn't look well. We have to multiply them, the whole reaction with the 2. The whole reaction with a 2. Then at the end we can get balanced reactions. Again, let's multiply 2 with whole reactions. So now we can write here, that is 2 C2H6 plus 2, that is with the 2 is 2 to multiply, so it will remove. So we can write here 5O2. 5O2. Then we can here, that is called 2 to 2 is a 4. So we can write here 4CO2 plus, there is 2, there is 1, so we can write there 2H2O. We can write there 2H2O. Now again let's see that. Check again. Number of carbon is, that is number of carbon is 4. Number of carbon is 4. Again let's talk about oxygen. Oxygen is 5 twos are, so that is called 10. Number of oxygen is 10. And here number of oxygen is 4 twos are 10. And then we have, so number of oxygen is 10. That is called here. Now if we talk about that number of hydrogen in left side, so we have number of hydrogen is 2 6 are, that is called here 12. 2 6 are, so that is here 12. And here if we talk about here, so we have 2 twos are, number of hydrogen is 4. Number of hydrogen is 4. Again it's not balanced. Again it's not balanced. So if I write here that to balance hydrogen, so I have to write 6 here. I have to write a 6 here. But again go for the whole reaction because reaction is again disturbed. Number of carbon is balanced. Again number of oxygen, let's count it again. Number of oxygen is here 10. And here number of oxygen is 4 2s are 8 and 6, 14. At here, how many hydrogen we have? Oxygen, sorry. Let's call 14. Again what I have to do? I have to just remove 5 and add 7. Now let's again check the reaction. Number of carbon is 4. Number of carbon is 4. Then number of oxygen is 7 2s are 14. 7 2s are 14. And also here, now let's check here. 4 2s are 8 or 6. Because 6 1s are, so 14. Now let's talk about that number of hydrogen. So 6 2s are 12. That is okay. Now let's talk about here. 6 2s are, that is called number of hydrogen is also balanced. Number of hydrogen is also balanced. If we look at this reaction is a bit difficult, but we have to notice that every reaction is possible to balance. First, what I do with it, that we count that number of carbon, that was 2 and also 2. Then oxygen, the problem was 5 and 3. Then we multiply the reaction with the 2 and then we get that number of carbon 4, number of oxygen is 14 and number of hydrogen is 12. So this was about little bit difficult reaction. Now let's move for the reaction number 7, which is also more 12. So this was about little bit difficult reaction. Now let's move for the reaction number 7, which is also more difficult than this one.